we haven't been able to have the conversations. And I think particularly when it comes to children. I saw a documentary about trans kids, which was on the BBC. And there was an American couple, and the man was saying, I love looking at my child now because I see my little girl running. I don't have to look at my little boy mincing about. And what is really happening there is he's fixing a gay kid, isn't he? I mean, and I do worry about this idea that there's a kind of rehabilitated homophobia at the bottom of this. Yes. That really a tomboy could just be. I mean, from my view, what is wrong with a boy behaving in traditionally masculine ways, or boy behaving in a traditionally feminine way, or a girl behaving in a traditionally masculine way? If we really believe, we shouldn't be trying to fix, because actually this stuff that about someone saying they don't fit into a traditional gender, this is very conservative. I think there's a really conservative view of gender at the heart of the trans ideology, and that we need to have those. We just haven't had the discussion.
This is it. The trans thing runs against gay and it runs against women, and that's why it's causing so much pain. Because it's the same thing with the non-binary thing, which I don't believe in. The non-binary thing says, I'm a male, but I'm feeling a little bit, female today. What is that?
Yeah.
What is that?
Well, we used to call that sexism.
Right.
I mean, there was a video with Sam Smith saying, I've realised there's a woman within me. And what he's doing is pouting and dancing like a whore.
Right.
So that's what he thinks being a woman is.
Yes. Yeah.
So, okay. Why don't we take two?
We should go to the back.
Go to the back, absolutely. So right at the back with the blue top and the white shirt. It's very nice. Yep.
Well, is this working?
Yeah.
I started working on or looking at the trans issue back in 2015 because I was invited to do something on gender-neutral parenting here, and I discovered all this stuff. And what I discovered, and what I think that this is about, is I discovered that by that time, all of the professional ethics standards, all of the kind of laws that are now being brought to bear on this issue in the States had already been written or had already been accepted. And it was, I think that ultimately this is about the replacement of social norms with bureaucratically imposed social norms. And I think that what happened in the States is that after the successful campaign for gay marriage, you had this vast infrastructure of campaigners who wanted something else to do. Yeah. And so, literally by 2015, the ethical recommendations of the American Association of Psychologists said that if you cannot affirm your patient's gender identity, you should not be treating that patient. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
I agree. Let's take. We'll wrap it in with one or two others. I saw the.
Is that gentleman there with the green lanyard?
Thanks very much. Just on the question of identity politics generally, I mean, there is a real ethical question about whether, some will say mocking these tendencies is in danger of ignoring real injustices. And it's possible that it is, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't mock it. But on the specific question of identity politics, there's something I've noticed in the rhetoric of this, which is that certain attacks, be they said to be transphobic, homophobic, or whatever, are attacks on who I am. And it is this word who that's doing the work. It's been smuggled into public discourse for quite a long time now. You're attacking who I am. Now, in a way, you can say, okay, it's just another way of saying you're attacking something that's true of me, you're attacking what I am. But actually, the undertow of the undercurrent of this is that you're posing a kind of existential threat to me. Yes. And you're actually annihilating me. So you find some people, a minority of activists, but some, you're denying my right to exist, as if you're actually being accused of plotting murder, conspiracy to murder. It's not literally meant, but that's the thought. And that, I think, whatever we can say, whatever reservations we might have about some of the things, about some of the complexities of this issue, there is something in the rhetoric that I find quite worrying.
Shall we take one more question then? At the back there, just to the...
Yeah, a fantastic discussion, by the way. Frank Ferrudi, I was reading Frank Ferrudi today, and he says that over 70% of undergraduate students are reporting that they have stress or anxiety. So it follows on from my colleague my friend over here about education. So I just wonder whether this relates to this thing about this whole notion of being woke relates to anxiety and stress in young adults.
Well, why don't we just pick on whatever points and just wrap up what we think? I mean, I think you're absolutely right about, you hear that language of erasing people's existences, and I think this comes down to this conflation of words and violence, which is something that we really desperately need to resist, because they are not the same thing. Because what that really is a strategy to say that we shouldn't have this discussion, because what you're doing is inflicting violence upon me, and I think it's really dangerous. But in terms of the younger people and their anxieties, I mean, I think young people have always been anxious and have always had these problems, and I think one of the reasons why I am so optimistic is because I have been talking at universities and going to and speaking to students, and I think most students are sick of this, you know, and you hear this all the time about the snowflake generation and the Generation Z, and they're all so, you know, so feeble, and they're not. Some of them are. There's a small minority. There is a problem with resilience in that generation. I don't deny that, but that's our generation's fault. But loads of students that you talk to are actually, they want to move beyond this. They're sick of it. They're just afraid, and they end up capitulating with the loudest and most aggressive voices among them. So I think, don't write off the young generation. That's what I'd say. Don't at all. I think they're more on board than you realise.
We'll get to Douglas Murray's answers in just a moment, but I just wanted to basically say one thing in terms of what Andrew was saying, and that is, I really think there is a turning point that is occurring on college campuses. And the thing is that there is it's kind of a, you're basically saying two things that are the opposite, but I think there is a large minority out there. Isn't the majority, it is a large vocal minority. It seems large because of the vocalization of the minority and the linguistics that they use that can make people shut up. For example, what you said against me constitutes violence. And you're not just violating me. Your words are actually hurting me. They're inflicting pain as if that pain was being inflicted physically. So they're equating emotional, an emotional response with an actual physical response, and saying there's an equality between those two responses, that there is no difference. That if I feel something, that feeling is emotional as well as physical. You're harming me. And that can shut down conversation in many people, because a lot of people just don't know, people get taken aback. Young kids get taken aback and go, oh, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. Well, you're hurting your feelings with words. There's no freedom from being hurt with words, or freedom of speech protecting you from getting hurt with words. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names shall never hurt me. That doesn't work anymore. The sticks and stones hurt, and your words are hurting me, and they're both the same, equating both together. But like you said, most college kids, the majority, want to move past this. But the thing is, some of them are afraid to voice their opinion. So either they just, if they're asked, they're either silent, but then that gets up with people on the left, said, your silence is also speaking violence, because you're allowing the violence to occur, the so-called violence to occur by being silent. So that's not right. So they just shy away from it. Most people don't want to be confrontational. Most kids usually don't want to be confrontational. I just got to get a class, man. I got a test. I just got to get out of here. But you do have that minority of students that do speak up, opposing this woke ideology. And that is happening more and more and more. And when other kids see that, that's what happens when Charlie Kirk and Candace and Knowles and Walsh and, all the others, go out there and see that there's other people doing things, that they basically say, oh, it's not just me. There are others out there that think exactly like I do. And I'm just not being, I'm not the crazy one here, right? And they feed off of that, and it gives them strength to continue on and hopefully voice their voice against this woke culture mob. Anyways, folks, we're going to get back to the debate with Andrew and Douglas taking more questions. But this is what we have on tap for you today. You're watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nasir, where I give you my political prescription from my political perspective of what happens when all these questions about culture, trans, gay, gender dysphoria, culture, social media, college, universities, professors, all those things collide. Let's get back to the question answer session with Andrew and Douglas right now.
Second that. Just add one thing to it, which is in Matters of Crowds, I do these sort of interlude chapters, and one of them, which I wish I could get people to focus on more, is about the issue of forgiveness. And I'm sympathetic to the so-called snowflake generation, because I think that they are in a situation unparalleled in human history. That the connectivity, which we all know the virtues of, has terrible, terrible downsides. And if I could sum that up in one way, it's Hannah Arendt says in the 50s in a lecture she gave that action in the world was always terrifying because we never knew how to undo an action. Everything is impossible to undo, every word. We never did know as a species how to do that, other than one mechanism we had to deal with that, which was forgiveness. Now, the generation growing up now lives in a world where acting in the world has never been more perilous. You might tweet something, post something, a photograph, a comment, be friends with somebody. Bang, you're over. How do you come back? Nobody cares. Nobody spends any time focusing on it. Nothing in the culture. None of the adults. Everyone's too keen taking out their enemies. Everyone's too happy to get some short-term gain from it. Nothing in the society focuses on how we get out of it. So when a young person looks at this and becomes terrified of acting, I'm not surprised. I would be. So the job of adults, as it were, in that situation is to try to find a way not just to strengthen young people and help them get through this life that was never exactly easy. There was no generation that came through life and said, well, that was a doddle. But not just to help them get through, but to help them find ways out. This is the sort of thing the adults should be focusing on. And if we weren't focusing on the navel-gazing of identity politics and working out exactly where we stand in every grievance hierarchy and where we are in the privilege chain today, perhaps that's the sort of thing we'd have worked out by now, or at least be thinking about. And that's why I say there's an opportunity cost. There's a massive opportunity cost to wasting the most privileged generation in history on identity issues when we should be doing so much more.
Right. I'm going to do that. Listen, thank you guys for coming. Guys, sorry about the gendered language. Right, so, and I would really urge you to read Douglas's book, The Madness of Crowds. It's brilliant.
I urge you to read Tanya.
Thank you very much.
Well, it seems like Douglas has softened up a little bit there. I don't have that same sentiment as Douglas does in terms of giving, the Gen Zers or millennials or youngsters, a snowflake class, so to speak, a little bit of a pass. I mean, maybe just a tiny one on just a few minorities, but I have to look at it case by case. But I would basically say that this is the most privileged class of young people ever. They're living in the greatest time and period in history of the world. A lot of them wouldn't agree to that, but I would just basically ask them, what time in the past would you like to go to? Would you like to go back to the late 1960s when all the social upheaval was going on? Would you like to go back to the 1940s and 50s when the world wars were happening? Would you like to go back early 1900s? How about the 1800s? When in world history would you have liked to have been alive? And then do the same things that you're doing right now, saying the same things that you're saying right now, and how much of an effect it would have had in those time periods. These youngsters, these snowflakes, the majority of them, I believe, could be wrong, but it's my opinion, are virtue signalers. They're virtue signalers. They're coming from parents, for the most part, money, privilege, and that privilege extends on all color levels, all fields. They're going to some of the most prestigious institutions of learning, leftist learning in the world. And from that porch, they polish their halos every single day in their dorms, in their apartments. They polish them brightly and they virtue signal. But they never, ever, ever see exactly what they're talking about, what the effects are going to have, because it's all talk and no do. Anyways, folks, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I've been your host. My name is Dr. Nasir. If you haven't done so already, we'd love for you to subscribe to the channel, like, share, and follow. You all know what to do. Take a look at our video links above and below. Share your comments. We'd love to hear from you. My final thought, when you're right, you're right. And when you're left, a bunch of snowflakes, you're all wrong. Until next time, folks, take care and stay safe.